Welcome to Heart Riffing, a podcast by way of the heart. Here we explore what it means to reconnect with your essence and live from a place of personal freedom. If you're interested in learning more about our courses, mentoring and workshops, feel free to visit wayoftheheart.com.au. We're so glad you're here and we hope you enjoy the episode. Hi and welcome back to another episode of Heart Riffing. Today on the podcast, this topic actually comes from somebody who left a comment, I think it was on our YouTube channel, but they asked us to do an episode on the limit to loving kindness, or is there a limit to loving kindness? Because loving kindness is one of our values, a way of the heart.
Yeah.
But does it have its limits? Or, you know, what is it? Is there a limit to it?
We're into it already.
Yeah.
That's
well,
it.
maybe we should start.
You're throwing it across straight away.
So
How easy is your job?
I just you.
How easy is
Hello,
that?
everyone.
This is what
Off
we're
you
doing?
go.
No, you do it. Okay.
I hand over to the talent. You just have to
Great.
catch it.
Yeah, great.
No. Let me do a better job then.
Yeah.
Let's start with what is loving kindness, because we say loving kindness. I think lots of people can have an idea of what that actually means.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably worth defining it.
Okay, I think that loving kindness in my life is probably the single biggest. I would define loving kindness as a superpower. It's the ability to allow. So for me, it's an allowing energy. If we talk about an energetic, it's an allowing energy, and it even allows things that aren't perfect or aren't great, or things that, you know, maybe aren't even good. You know, like there's a developmental theory that sort of traces how humans evolve. It's called integral theory, right? And humans go through a series of kind of different levels of consciousness and worldviews as they develop. And as you sort of get there, you know, as you get further and further up in the sort of the first tier of these sort of worldviews and levels of consciousness, it moves into what's called rationality. So you start to see humans behave rationally. You know, but prior to that, you know, they might be behaving in a tribe. So the tribe determines their behavior. And then after a while, you know, the person distinguishes themselves as an individual from the tribe, and they start to say, how do I need to behave?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they start to behave in a way which is rational for them as an individual, as opposed to collectively in a tribe where behavior is predetermined and they just go along with it, right? They behave rationally. And when someone behaves rationally, they start to realize, oh, I'm not the only person around. So they start to behave what's called pluralistically. So they start to, pluralism is just, you know, singular, plural, one, two. Yeah. So plurality is the rational person starts to look around and go, oh, this world is populated by more than just me. It's populated by other people. Okay, so they become pluralistic. They start to consider the opinions and the feelings, and you know, they start to include the other in their life, in the schema of their life. Now, one of the problems with modern day pluralism, because because your generation is largely pluralistic, it's largely inclusive. One of the problems with that generation is that generation's plurality includes everything that doesn't hurt us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I like to joke, it's the vegan who's so inclusive, except for all those dickheads that eat meat.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not included because they're still eating animals. You know, it's like, well, it's kind of not really plurality. It's kind of not really inclusiveness. And then integral, which is, you know, in the integral theory, integral is the highest of the level one kind of developmental stages. Integral sort of says you actually have to include everything.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have to include the stuff that you disagree with.
Mm-hmm.
You have to include the stuff that might hurt you. It's the observation that within the context of an ecosystem, I always use the example of there might be a snake and there might be a kookaburra, and they actually don't get on. They would actually attack one, or the kookaburra would attack the snake, or in ecosystems there are things that clash and are discordant with one another, and there are things that cause harm, and there can be within an ecosystem things which are violent. And you go, well, okay, well, how do you reconcile the whole ecosystem if there's violence and clashing and dissonance and things inside of it? Well, there's one superpower that doesn't rationalize it all. It doesn't mean you understand the clashes any better. There's one superpower that holds it all together and allows it. And for me, that allowing is loving kindness. It's the one thing that says, this person has hurt me or could hurt me, and loving kindness allows me to not have to take revenge, to not have to behave in a way where I become less than what I can be in order to extract a toll or a penalty or a payment or retribution or some kind of justice. And that, for me, that's the loving kindness piece. It allows us to engage in less than perfect, because there's an acceptance, there's a generosity, there's grace, right? So for me, that's the definition of loving kindness. It's that capacity that we have to include others, and sometimes the biggest other. This is paradox, right? Sometimes the biggest other in our life is ourselves.
Ooh.
Sometimes I wake up and I go, who the frick are you?
Yeah.
Sometimes I wake up and I feel like a complete stranger to myself. I feel, I can wake up sometimes and feel, I don't do this very often, but you can wake up some days and you're walking around and you just go, I'm so disappointed in you.
Yeah.
So you're such a disappointment,
Really?
Why haven't you done this before? Why haven't you done that? Why didn't this happen? Why did you let that happen? You're getting into a negative mental loop, and you're just trolling through all the all the disappointment, and if you kind of get on a roll, you can have a real bummer of a day. And what you'll notice is completely absent from that day is any loving kindness extended to self. It's all just self-judgment. It's all just, it might all just be comparison. Why do they have more than you? Why did that work for them and it hasn't worked for you? Why did they get there when they were 27 and here you are at 60, still trying to work this stuff out?
Yeah.
Like, what's the matter with you? You know? That person that doesn't know anywhere near as much as you had this shit sorted out 15 years ago. Why are you still, and you can kind of get into this you can get into a negative spiral. And then when you get into that negative spiral, the one thing is you'll go, there's no loving kindness here, and so loving kindness isn't just something that you extend to others. It's the thing that you extend to yourself when you're becoming a stranger to your own essence, and when you're being harsh and critical, and taking this. So for me, loving kindness is a massive superpower. I don't know if that's a good definition or not.
It is the definition that it is.
It
is what it is.
Yeah.
We've touched on a lot of things. I think we've covered a lot of ground. I think maybe it'd be interesting to look. I do want to eventually go into
the question of
what
limits.
that looks like and what the limits are behind that. But I think it's probably worth first looking at. You made a distinction between loving kindness towards self and loving kindness towards others, and I think there's a difference there, right? Like, to extend loving kindness towards yourself is a different practice to extending it to others.
I actually think it's the same. I think it's just the two movements of love. Love moving outwards towards others, and love being. If I don't have any love for self, then I probably don't have anything to give anyone else anyway.
Yeah.
Like, that's always a way of like if I'm an empty tank and there's not a source of love in me that's flowing to me in the form of loving kindness and self-acceptance and and generosity of spirit for the areas in my own life where I'm, you know, below par, not perfect, not perfected, whatever, then I won't have that to give to others. So that's why, there's this classic sort of psychological little formula that says whatever you repress or suppress in your own life, you project, which is the really interesting observation that the person who is super critical and judgmental of another person is so often reacting to the same deficit
in themselves.
And they hate that deficit and they despise it in themselves. And so if they pick up a whiff of it over there, they're quick to judge it.
Yeah.
But that thing may exist in a suppressed or oppressed form in themselves, and because it exists in them, whatever you suppress consciously or repress unconsciously gets projected. So I think loving kindness and love to self moves in both directions. It has to be extended to areas in my own life where I perceive that I'm not, and then it also can then be extended to other people where they're not, where they need grace and love and acceptance and inclusion and allowing.
Yeah.
I think allowing is such an interesting word in this space.
Why?
Because you just allow it. It's okay.
But then
because you do that, right?
This kind of brings us to the limits thing, right? Like I want to extend loving kindness to myself, but I also don't want to let that be an excuse to be passive or to not work hard or to wallow. Do you know what I mean? Like I can, I was listening to a Ram Dass meditation this morning, and he was saying, you see, when you have a dark thought, you see the dark thought and you love the dark thought.
Yeah.
There's loving kindness towards that. But I don't want to look at something like that, go, oh, I love you, or that's okay. And then sit in that and wallow in that, in the same way that I don't want to, have loving kindness towards somebody else who is, being horrible to me. I don't want to be a doormat. If they're, violating me or violating somebody, then like walking all over them, whatever it is, you don't want to allow that.
No, so I think that the dynamic of allowing is interesting, because I think the dynamic of allowing is an acceptance of what is, and the loving kindness aspect of that is you're then responding to that situation or that individual with genuine generosity, genuine care, genuine loving, being genuinely loving and kind to that individual. Now, sometimes the most loving and kind thing you can do for an individual is to say, hey, we don't do this, and to put in a boundary. Like I love my cats. I really love my cats. But if we're to cohabitate, we do not dig our claws into the furniture and rip the crap out of it.
Can you give the parenting example? Because I feel like the parenting example is
the cats wasn't a good enough one? No, okay.
I mean, it's great, but I feel like it's going to...
Well, loving kindness towards kids is you give kids permission to do things, but, it's not loving kind to let your kid run up and to run across the road and not teach them to stop and to look both ways and to press the walk button. It's not loving kind to let your kids want to rush down to the beach and jump in the water. It's not loving kind to let your kids drift up in a riff because they didn't learn to swim between the flags. You know what I mean? Like, so loving kindness is not this soft thing that just allows everything, even that which is detrimental. Loving kindness in the allowing sense. It covers imperfection in so much as it goes, okay, that's part of the landscape. It includes it because life is less than perfect, right? And so it is a sober adult assessment that says, cats rip furniture, kids run across roads, kids love the water and they run in where it's not safe to swim. We get all of that. And then off the back of that, I teach the cats not to scratch the furniture. I teach the kids to stop at the lights, and I teach the kids it's super dangerous to jump in the water wherever you want to jump in the water. So it's not the perception that loving kindness comes with an allowing that has no boundaries or no imperative or no kind of intention to it. Loving kindness has, if anything, it can hold intention, it can hold directiveness, it can hold robust boundaries, because it's not holding them in spite. It's not holding them in a kind of a mean, punitive way to protect and to blame and to judge and to dominate. It's going, hey, look, we're just working with what we got here. It just keeps everything flowing. It just keeps it generous. It allows people to be less than perfect and to come back from the brink and go, wow, when you're kind to someone who is being harsh and awful, all that really happens is you just, the Bible used to say, you're throwing, your gentleness is like throwing hot coals on their head. Your loving kindness is such a juxtaposition to their rigidity and their hardness that it's like, what are you doing? They go, I don't even know what I'm doing. Am I being really horrible? Kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And, probably no one in the history of the universe has ever had that dialogue, but that's what I think the power of loving kindness is. It becomes almost like an inviolability. It's like gentleness, which is so ridiculously strong, acceptance, which is so transformative, submissiveness, which is so bounded and so clear on what should be done.
How do you put a boundary in place out of loving kindness, not out of reactivity? With yourself or with others?
I think for me, if I'm talking about putting a boundary in place with me through loving kindness, it's just always a lot gentler. It's never a precept. It's never a boundary. It's just it never comes across as a boundary. It always comes across as a better way to roll. You know what I mean? It's almost like someone coming alongside you saying, "Why don't we try do this?" And you do that, and everything works better. You know what I mean? It's not. It's almost. And with others, it comes across, I think, as like we can do that, but is there another way we can roll? Like it there's a suggestive element to it. There's a gentle element to it. Sometimes loving kindness is just a silence. Sometimes a boundary in loving kindness is just a silence. I'm not playing. I'm not part of that. Especially, I don't know, you've been around where people start to rip into one person and start to gossip, and or someone's character is being vilified in a group of people, and there's a part of you that just goes, I have nothing to add to that. I don't need to correct anyone, but sometimes the act of just not saying anything, everyone picks up. Oh, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think what I'm trying to narrow down on is it can be hard to be allowing, or it can be hard to be loving kind to people who have not been loving kind to you. To like the difficult family member who, just is so stuck in their own stuff that they don't extend any kindness towards you, or to the boss who's an asshole, or the workmate who, do you know what I mean? Like it's hard to extend loving kindness to people who should be close to you but have caused you trauma or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I think that's what I'm trying to play devil's advocate for.
Yeah. Well, at that point, loving kindness just becomes, it just is your own mode of operation. It's not theirs. It's not about them.
Yeah.
loving kind. I have a number of friends who I have a number of friends, and my wife, Los Angela, would be one of them. They just hold space.
Mm-hmm.
You know that in the what I mean by holding space is they create a dynamic around them where they just hold certain things central. They are kind, they are gentle in speech, they listen, attentively, they are present. Some of these personal disciplines that they have, and because they just hold that space that particular way, and that's actually about them.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things that Ange does is that she's slow to engage, and so people go, "Oh, she's very wise."
Yeah.
But she hasn't said anything. So how do you know she's wise?
Yeah.
Because you can tell that she's just she's keeping her gunpowder dry. She's not reacting. She's waiting to be intelligently responsive. You know what I mean? And to say something that she can genuinely own.
Mm-hmm.
That's her energy. That's her thing. That has nothing to do with whatever else is going on.
Mm-hmm.
She just holds space for that energy. Got another friend that is just incredibly gracious and loving kind. And I've been in meetings with her where people have been firing off and she just allows it. She just holds the space.
Mm-hmm.
She might redirect it, or she might say something to them like, thank you for sharing that. That's important for us to consider. I've got another mate who's a genius in business, and I've been in board meetings with him where people have been getting quite animated. I think this is really important. And he'll just go, "You're right, that is important. Let's hold that for a moment. We'll circle back to that." And he genuinely does circle back. But what he doesn't do is, like, someone else might go, "It's not important and we're not going to deal with that, Eric. Shut the hell up,"
It's Eric today, not Carl.
Why are you even here? We've already kicked Carl out. Eric, you'll be next.
Because we usually pick on Carl.
Valmay, what are you doing in here? So it's like, but he does. He genuinely circles back to Carl and Eric, and he makes them feel included, and it's ridiculously powerful.
Mm.
But it's coming from him. He's not putting it out there saying, "Here's a gift of loving kindness and inclusion. Do you guys just want to trash this?"
Yeah. Yeah.
He says, no. It comes with the gravitas, the weight, the substance of his own personhood. So when it's offered, you don't feel like when my other friend when she extends loving kindness because she's holding space for people who are really in pain and difficulty, they don't misuse it.
Yeah.
Because they realize that it's something that she's giving.
And it's fully embodied, right?
It's fully embodied,
Because
it's
coming
real
from them. Yeah.
and it's powerful. It's not. This is loving kindness, which is what we're talking about, as a superpower. And when you feel it, it changes the tone of the room. It changes. If we went through feeling kinesthetic things, it changes the feel of the room. It changes the temperature. It has an immediate impact.
Yeah.
And so it's not just this permissiveness that allows bad behavior. It's this allowing that sees the bad behavior and then kind of trumps it.
Yeah.
They played their best card and it goes, yes, now let me play the loving card, trump, ka-tink.
Yeah.
And everyone goes, oh, wow.
Yeah.
She just won the hand.
It's an ace of hearts.
She just won. Yeah. She won that round.
Yeah.
How many of those have you got?
Yeah.
I've got heaps of them. I just keep playing that. And then all of a sudden everything's shifting.
Yeah. How do you identify what...
I should add, I had, as a young man, and I had not cultivated that loving kindness.
That's my next question.
Oh, cool. Go for it.
How do you identify what loving kindness looks like in a way that you can embody, in a way that's authentic to you? Because you've talked about 3 different examples of 3 different people, and they were able to extend loving kindness because it came from being grounded in their essence and who they are. And so
Yeah.
they were able to fully embody that. And that was, you know, not that was extended, not contingent upon how that was going to be received.
Yeah.
So how do you identify that and how do you cultivate that?
For me, this will sound really weird, I had to stop believing stuff. You know, like the spiritual traditions that I was brought up in, there was kind of these rules: believe this, behave this way, and you belong, right?
Mm.
And so your entry into the community of faith was like, do you believe this?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, yes, I believe. In my case, Jesus died for my sins so that I no longer have to stand before God a guilty sinner, and then I will go to heaven with him, justified in Christ, blah, 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 blah. Like I had that whole confession as a young man, right? And so like if you didn't have that, if you believed something different, then we weren't going to roll together.
Mm-hmm.
That's very tribal. It's very binary, right? But it's really interesting how tribal and binary a lot of people are. If you're like me, then we'll have loving kindness and I can be really generous to you. And if you're not like me, then we won't. And sometimes the dividing walls between us is the subtle stuff that we believe about, the world that we live in. You know, and every community of people and every kind of demographic of people holds certain convictions about the way things are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that, you know, the woke community now goes, well, there is a patriarchy, and I've been fighting against the patriarchy, and so much of society is embedded in, you know, patriarchal systems that we have to bloody bring down, and yeah, and there's, you know, and it's just truth. There's a lot of truth in that. It's completely true. But that's going to mean I need to go to war against these systems.
Mm-hmm.
That means I've got to believe that, and I've got to onboard that. The same as like I'm a fundamentalist, and I got to believe my religion, and my religion demands this from me, so I believe that. So for me, the act of moving into loving kindness was just to abandon the space of believing. Mm-hmm. With any kind of sense of literality. Mm-hmm. Like it's like, yes, there could be truth in all of there's truth in all of this, mm-hmm. but if I gear up on this stuff, I'm just going to be for one group of people.
Yeah. So I guess if we're like really leaning into the riffing part of the heart riffing, it would seem that finding a way of embracing or cultivating loving kindness that is unique to you is a process that's completely unique to the individual. Because for you, it was a process of letting, you know, stopping believing in things. For me, I think it was a process of letting go of being emotionally attached to a particular outcome.
Sure.
Like I can't emotionally invest in what this person's going to do, how politics are going to play out, whether I'm going to have a good job or not. Like I needed to let go of being attached to a positive outcome.
Sure.
So I would maybe riff, or I would warrant a guess that moving into that space of allowing and cultivating loving kindness requires some type of letting go.
Yeah, I think yeah. So when I go back to say, you know, letting go of believing, for me it was like there's a real person here. Mm-hmm. Before there's an ideology, before there's a framing narrative, before there's a political, social, demographic conviction, before there's some kind of ideation, there's a sentient creature here. Mm-hmm. Do you want to connect with the sentient creature? Do you want to suspend all of that? You know, because if we get into all of that, and it was really hard for me to suspend all of that to start off with, because that was the way I was taught to interpret my world.
Yeah.
You know, the tribal mentality goes like, are you with us? Mm-hmm. Are you in the tent or are you out of the tent? Are you part of the bounded set? Are you outside the bounded set? Are you one of us or are you one of them? So this binary thinking was kind of embedded into so much of my life. And so for me, it was like exactly like you know, if you have some kind of ideation about the truth, for example, then you actually don't meet the person. If you have some prescribed outcome where you go, this relationship has to give this outcome, then again, you don't meet the person. So I think loving kindness comes with a genuineness to just go, the connection is important. What lubricates the connection? What allows the connection to, what helps me see the person? And I mean, in that case, loving kindness best expresses itself as non-judgment.
Yeah.
Don't have an opinion. I don't have an opinion about you. I don't know you. We haven't shared a meal. We haven't hung out. So let's do that. So for me, I think it was to step out of that highly agendaed space and just to sit and go, wow, I just want to be with this person.
Yeah.
Just want to do life. Just want to talk to them.
Yeah.
Just want to connect.
Yeah. And I guess this can also go back to the original question that I was trying to kind of get into, in that sometimes I think that the most loving, kind thing that you can do is to disconnect from a person, and to just let them do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And to hold your own energy and your own
Well,
strength.
if there's a lot of heat and there's a lot of difficulty and challenge in it, yeah, sometimes, you just go, okay, I don't need to get a result from you. I don't need to reconcile this at the moment. I don't need you to, I don't need something from you. I just allow you to you do you, Here's the other thing that I discovered when my practice started to get genuinely deep. When I could connect to my own heart, I almost found that the deepest part of me was kind of mirrored in most people I met.
Ooh, cool. I like that.
That what existed in me at the core existed in you at the core. And then there's all the cultural dressing, and then there's all the socialization, and then there's the wound, then there's the trauma, then there's all this sort of stuff. And that might make it hard to actually connect, to encapsulate and reconcile all of that, and to encapsulate all of my stuff and reconcile all that, and do, where can we marry your bag of stuff with my bag of stuff? Well, that's going to be hard, right? But when I pull back and I connect with my heart, I go, oh, wow. Then it becomes almost easy to see your heart despite the noise. And then when two hearts connect, it's a universal, in the Upanishads, it's just articulated as oneness. The person who is not, the Upanishads, the person who is not beguiled or fooled by the multiplicity of form, but sees the oneness behind it, is blessed. So it's like, here's all our forms, here's all our constructs, here's all our history. Oh, but here's us, and we are actually one. We are fundamentally one at a heart level, like that. So therefore, the connective element of developing loving kindness becomes connecting with essence, connecting with heart, realizing that heart energy is shared. And you can do that with anything. Like I can do that with the cats. I can do that with this will sound so weird. Ange and I did it a few times when we came across gigantic trees in Portugal. It's like, oh, this tree, it's here.
Yeah.
It has an essence to connect with. And that'll sound, some of you will just be going, he's off with the fairies. Sometimes in the ocean, I just go for a swim. I'm in the ocean. I go, oh, I can feel it going up and down over waves. You go, oh, there it is. It's a union. Anyway, that's spooky.
No, I think
that's weird.
I think that makes total sense. And I think that, like, everybody listening, I mean, if you're listening to us, this is probably not.
You're probably a weirdo.
Yeah, you're probably weird, just like we are.
Yeah.
No, but I think that you can probably identify a moment in your life where you felt connected, or that sense of oneness or flow, or whatever words you want to put around it. I don't know if we've covered this, but then like, how do you really tangibly, how do you actually cultivate that?
Well, it's all those same disciplines. It's always the same disciplines of basically coming back to self, making time, pausing, connecting to nature. It's all those fundamental embodied activities, that all the stuff we talk about through our courses. There's so many embodied activities. It's taking the time to be intentional about the return. It's taking time to just realize that you're in a flow. That life is a river. It's a flow. To let go of your control. To let go. To allow. It's probably 100 different disciplines that we talk about all the time. It really is a way of life. We're really prescribing a pathway. It is way of the heart. It is very intentionally a pathway that we walk, as opposed to just think this and it will change everything. It's actually think and align yourself with a particular path, which is a heart-centered path.
Yeah, yeah, and I think once you do that, things do like you do meet like-minded people. You do,
Yeah,
you do
it gets its own momentum,
yeah, it
for
does.
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
Righto.
Thanks very much.
All right, friends. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you, and thanks for commenting. Thanks for asking. Please do reach out, comment, or send us a message. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to hear what you want to hear from us. So,
Ciao.
bye. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Heart Riffing. If today's conversation resonated, you can find more of our work, including courses, mentoring, and workshops, at www.wayoftheheart.com.au or on our Instagram, Way of the Heart Official. We'd love to hear your thoughts, reflections, or questions, so please always feel free to message or comment. We look forward to seeing you next time.